are looking at the subject of speeding Jesus coming. All right, we've been talking about speeding up Jesus coming. And if we can speed up Jesus coming, it stands to reason that we can also slow it down. And we have slowed it down. Jesus' coming could have been accomplished a long time ago, but there is a mission, there is a commission, there is a job that we have been given as disciples of Jesus Christ. We have yet to finish. But when we do finish it, when we do finish it, you know what the job is? The coming of Jesus is about coming back for his kingdom. He's coming to reign and rule over all the earth. He is coming to set up his glorious kingdom, the kingdom of Israel for his people, a holy and godly people who love him and have passed the love and the loyalty test. Not just any people can enter the kingdom of God. We will be a holy people, or we will not be there. Here, we're going to look in the Old Testament, as I promised here, a little bit more in this part. We are going to look, first of all, at Numbers 14. Because in Numbers 14, we have a very, very big example that we must pay attention to. In Numbers 14, we can see where the people of Israel rebelled against their leader, Moses. They rebelled against the testimony of Joshua and Caleb. They listened instead to 10 spies, 10 leaders of tribes of Israel, who gave a fearful report. That's who they listened to. People who are fearful, people who are cowardly, are not going to enter into the kingdom of God. This is war. Prophecy declares we are living in the last days. It is a time of war. There's going to be a great cosmic conflict, and Satan and his minions are going to be destroyed. At least Satan, he's going to be put away for 1,000 years, and then he'll come back and lead another rebellion. But before that, there will be 1,000 years of peace. There will be 1,000 years of the kingdom of God, where God's people are going to prosper. We are going to inherit a promised land, a goodly land, a land flowing with milk and honey, just like the Israelites were promised by God. First of all, in Genesis 15, and then we see it again in the book of Exodus. The people of Israel were promised an inheritance, but they didn't understand that they were going to have to fight for it. If we want something bad enough, we must fight for it. There will be no passive, no patsies, no fearful in the kingdom of God. I can't say that loud enough and strong enough and enough time. We must understand that this is a history lesson in Numbers 14 that is going to come alive in these last days. And there was a Spanish philosopher, a Spanish-American philosopher by the name of George Santayana, who around the turn of the last century gave us what's called the law of repetitive consequences. And this law states that those who forget history will find it repeating itself. If we forget the lessons of history, then we're going to see it happen again in the future. Our lesson, Numbers 14. Let's look at it. Verse 1. That night all the people of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, "If only we had died in Egypt or in this desert. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt?" And they said to each other, "We should choose a leader and then go back to Egypt. Now, what's this all about? What happened? There were 12 spies that God said, send them out. Send them out. They'll be spying out the land of Canaan for 40 days. They'll just be looking it over, and then they'll come back with a report, and then the Israelites would go in and take the land. They would be aggressive. They would assert us. They would believe in God's promise. They would fight. They would drive the Amorites out, the Canaanites out of the land, and the land would be theirs. Some say it was only about 2 weeks from the time they left Egypt till there they are in Kadesh Barnea, awaiting the report of the spies. Well, the spies come back. And they talk about, yes, it is a good land. It is a land that's producing beautiful, beautiful fruit. It's a goodly land. But, they say, we saw large fortifications there. We saw giants there. And I believe, no doubt about it, they did see giants there. They saw the sons of Anak. The Anakites are a race of giants. Goliath was an Anakite. And they saw them and they feared. They said, we're like grasshoppers compared to them. And so 10 of the spies gave a fearful report to the people. And the fear that they had spread like wildfire across the camp, till nearly everybody was fearful. And they joined in the idea that they could go back to Egypt and that they would choose a new leader who would lead them back. And I don't know what they were thinking. How do you reverse your way across the Red Sea? You know, God parted the waters. I don't know what they were thinking. But they were so full of fear, they weren't even thinking properly. And when we talk about what's coming, this is going to be an age of great fear. It is already. People are fearful of everything. They're fearful of COVID. They're fearful of this pestilence and that pestilence. They're fearful of climate change. Talking to somebody the other day who the end of the world's going to come by climate change. And all this stuff. Oh, fearful of this and fearful of that. What are we going to do? Well, if you're not fearful of God, you're subject to 1,000 other fears. But if you have the fear of God, there isn't any other fear. And perfect love casts out that fear. We love God with our heart, soul, mind, and strength. We have no fear. Jesus, in teaching about those who are fearful for losing their lives, he said, I'll tell you whom you should fear. Do not fear the one who, after killing the body, can do no more. No. The one you should fear is the one who, after killing the body, has the power to throw you into hell. Him you should fear. That's it. That's our only fear, is fear of God. God says go, we should go. But historically, when God says go to the church, and I'm talking about now the Great Commission, go into all the world, make disciples. Traditionally, when God says go to the church, we hear from the pastor, stay. We need you next Sunday. We need to build up the attendance. We need to take a better offering. We need the new part of the building. Stay. We need you here. God says go. We listen to men and we stay. Guess what? You listen to the wrong people. They can't save you. Only God can save you. And there's a command. God God takes very seriously this thing called disobedience. Very seriously, disobedience. And in Numbers 14, they're going to see he took it very seriously when these 10 spies said, instead of going, they said, let's run. Let's turn tail and go back to Egypt. Oh, just a slap in God's face. But there were two. There was Joshua and Caleb. They had something else to say. Here's what they said. The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. I'm reading from now verse 8 of chapter 14. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord. And do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will swallow them up. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them. Joshua and Caleb spoke what was right. Yes, it was the word of faith, but it was right from God's lips. I'm going to give you the land. I'll give you the land. And yes, their protection was gone. Yes, the Israelites would have swallowed them up, but instead, a great fear overcame them, and they turned cowards. What are you going to do when this one who's coming threatens your life and the life of your family? What are you going to do? It's going to happen. You better have an answer. You better have the right answer.
Victorious army with God-given heart.